Welcome, dear visitors. We are going to invite you to visit our school. We are the guardians of time and history, and we are going to show you, at the same time we show you the school, we are going to show you the most important hits of our history, of your history, because finally history is something that is common for all of us. And what a better way to start that starting by the beginning. Welcome. You can have here with us. After all the material being created, the different particles start to be formed, start to couple, start to join, and to create more complex structures. At this moment, we can say chemistry was born. In one part of the galaxy that were formed, a planet were spinning around one of the stars. It was such a hot planet made with rocks in such high temperatures that it looks like it was fire. But in this planet, things happened that didn't happen in other parts of the universe. For example, here, two elements as simple as oxygen and hydrogen combine themselves, forming a molecule of the H2O. This is water. Water is something that changed our life. In fact, it's one of the conditions that was in this planet to make us to be here. This water, due to the condition of the planet, could be in three different forms, as a gas, as liquid state, and a solid state. At the beginning, it was as a vapor, because this planet was always covered, even when the composition changed with time, was covered with a layer of gases that protect this planet from the cosmic rays and other radiation from the universe. Due to the volcanoes activities and to different interaction with the cosmic rays, one day these molecules of water fall down in liquid waves. And this was as the hot planet became the blue planet. This is something really important for us, because in this blue planet, in this water, in this sea that was formed by the fall down of these molecules of water, one day, due to the action of the cosmic ray, different materials were created, the DNA and other organic materials. And one day, suddenly, life appeared. You could think it could be something very, very far away in time. How can we understand how long took this process since the Big Bang to here to arrive? If we try to concentrate all the history of the universe in just 1 year, where the Big Bang took place on the 1st January, and today is the 21st December at midnight. Our planet was formed at the beginning of September. Life appeared in the Earth at the middle of September. So it was not much time since the planet was formed to the life appeared. But it's a lot of time thinking on the age of the universe. First alive creatures to appear were the blue algae. They were very simple creatures. They were autotroph, and they didn't behave as the life we are used to use today. These alive creatures follow a process of evolution that is represented in this floor, and that was very, very slow. At the beginning, the first creatures to be created were just one cell, formed by one cell. And later, we could have pluricellular creatures. First pluricellular creature appears in the cell. You can come with us, and we will visit some of the alive creatures that we have been living, that we have found living in our planet. The process has been very slow, and it's not scaled in the floor because we didn't have a floor big enough to represent it. We can just give you some data that are very important. For example, it was using again this comparison with the 1 year calendar. It was on the 30th December that the dinosaurs abandoned the planet because they extinct, and the mammals start to populate the earth and the water. It was at the end of this process that one special mammal appeared. This special mammal is especially important for us because it's us. On the 21st December, just 20 minutes to midnight, the mother human being appeared. And we arrived just in time to celebrate the new year. This a head big enough to contain an encephalon, especially a well-developed brain. Think about how many things you can do with your brain. In this hall, we have tried to represent the origins of the universe, the origins of the life, the origins of the earth, the origins of the human being. But we also wanted to represent other origins. For example, at that moment, when all the basic needs were covered, human beings start to ask themselves different questions. Important questions for them. How did I arrive here? Why these things I have around me, all of them have been created? And why are bad things happening to me? These three columns we have in the whole represents these three questions. And the answer, first human beings try to give to them. We are going just to explain you one of them. You can come here. Trying to answer. And in the lower part, we have the explanation that Latin and Greek mythology answer to this question. In the upper part, we have the answer that was given by Christianity. Because Greek, Latin, and Christian are the two sources where our culture here in Spain brings from. In this first column, we have the creation. According to the Greek traditions, at the beginning, it was just chaos. And from chaos, Uranus was created. Uranus created the Titans. And after creating the Titans, one of them, Saturn, occupied his place. Saturn had different sons, and each time his wife gave birth, he eat them. One day, when the last of these sons was born, Zeus, her wife tried to hide his son not to be eaten. When Zeus was adult, he faced his father and decided to attack them. And a war between gods and titans took place. A war against titans and gods took place. When the result of this war was Zeus being the king of all the gods and titans being punished different way. For example, here we can see Atlas that was punished to take the earth with his hands for all his life. After this war, two of the titans, Prometheus and Epimetheus, were forbidden because they had helped the gods during the war. And we are going to speak about this titan, Prometheus. Prometheus, according to the Greek all the animals, when Epimetheus started creating all the animals, Prometheus was a bit sad because he also wanted to create any creature. And he took clay, and from clay he made an statue. This statue had in his chest one of the quality of each of the animals that Epimetheus has created. And Prometheus decided to show it to Athena. Athena was also very excited with the creature, and she was so happy that she shuffled to the creature when Athena sent him the holy shuffle, the creature became alive. Prometheus was always a benefactor of the humanity, and he was always tricking Zeus to try to help the human beings. At one point, he decided to steal the fire from the gods and gave it to the human beings. At that point, Zeus was so angry that he decided not to forbid Prometheus and punish him severely. But this is another story that maybe another day I can tell you. Now we are ready to enter in our cavern, and we are going to explain you the history of human beings, especially here in this place in Europe that is called now Spain. Here, 800,000 years ago, it was inhabited by some of these hominids called Homo antecessors. We can find some remains in Atapuerca. But 600,000 years ago, it was a discovery that changed the life. It was the discovery of fire. Fire was something that changed the life of human beings, because at that moment, when human beings were able to pet fire when they could have fire where they want, and when they want, they were able to cook what makes easier to digest the food they have, and of course to be a bit hotter, because they were living in cabins and it was not good conditions. Can you imagine living here? Can you imagine living in a cabin, in a rock, with humidity, with the sound of wind going into, and without light? Because even when they have discovered the light, these cabins with just fire are not properly lighted. Can you imagine the sensation? Probably, as they were sharing this cabin with dangerous animals, as could be the cabin bear, they tried to find a good way to protect from spirits or from whatever they thought that could be living in this cabin. It was at that moment that music started. Okay? And it's with the discovery of music that we can show you the music class we have here. We are not entering, but I'm going to open the door for you to. Buenos días. O sea, solamente se ha tomado un momento para que vean el aula de clase. Here you can see our music class. What is a stone that was found in Atapuerca? Excalibur was worked and sharp as an axe, and it was discovered in a burial there in Atapuerca. We can imagine that if we find this stone that was something really precious from them, because these people had nothing, they were nomads. They just have this stone that would represent the difference between life or die. If we can find them in a burial, it's because at that point we can consider that religion was born. Because they had the thought that these people that were dying were traveling to another place. We have the first remainings of prehistoric art here in Spain that are in Altamira Cave. Okay? Here in this wall, you have been able to see different types of prehistoric art that we could find in this region. They are not ordered, they are not placed exactly where they should be in this timeline that we have all around the school, but we wanted you to see. In fact, our type of painting represents the second type of prehistoric art that we have here in Spain, that is Levantine rock art. Levantine rock art was in the Mediterranean. The other type of the older type of art was in the at that time of history, we have another important moment in the development of human beings. It is the discovery of the wheel. In fact, wheels, first wheels that we can find, were used to make pottery, but we wanted to represent it in the more useful way we gave to the wheel, that is to transport different things. This is the first point where technology was developed. At that moment, we can show you our technology workshop that is here. Okay, here students from the second year in history. At that moment, the writing was developed. The existence of writings represents that we can find different things written, and it allows us to make easier to understand what happened at that period of time. We have, at that moment, here, the creation of the first Phoenician city here in this writing. After the Phoenician, different peoples, different Indo-European peoples. From these Indo-European peoples, we also have some different arts that we can recognize that are very representative from here, from Spain. At that moment, we also wanted to give you some dates for you to compare this history with the history of the rest of Europe. At that moment was created the city of Athens. And here we are in the 4th century before Christ. At that moment, this is the first town built close to this city, was founded exactly here. But it was not the only population in this area. If we continue, because Secda and the conquest of Hispania, as it was called by the Romans, this land, made a change in all the world. Because the people in Secda has made an agreement with the Roman people to not to build a wall. And after the Romans going back to their home, they start building a wall. So it was considered a breaking of the agreement. And the breaking of the agreement wanted to say that a war was going to start. The problem was that the year started on March, when the councils were elected. And as they couldn't wait to March to start the war, because after March there is not a lot of time to make a war as it could be. They decided to elect the councils on the 1st of January. And from this moment, since this construction of the walls in Secda, the year starts on the 1st January. Was Marco Valerio Marcial. Marco Valerio Marcial was writer of epigrams, and he's going to give one to each of you. At that moment, it was the Great Fire of Rome. Here we are not going to have a fire, but we are going to have an earthquake, so I advise you to protect yourselves here. During all these centuries, we are in the times of the Roman Empire. example, it was the time where Emerita Augusta Mérida was built, the time where César Augusta Zaragoza was built. We will visit tomorrow. But one day, the German kingdom started to invade the Roman Empire. And it was at this time the Roman Empire started to be weak and weak each time, and one day it fell down. So the legacy we have is made of different Visigoth churches as Santa Maria de Meque. They changed in the most important city that we can find here in Spain, that was Toledo. We have some remains as capitals and different symbols that were always Christian symbols. Also, from the Visigoths, we have the legacy of some Spanish words that we still use and that came from this period. You can see many of them in the walls. For example, yelmo, what is a helmet, war, that is guerra in Spanish. We can see that many of the Visigoth words we have still in use in our language are related with war, because these people were very, very German. The Christians were living here, and the Muslims, they came and stayed here in Spanish land for more than 8 centuries. Okay? So, of Córdoba. We have also the legacy of different words that still are in use in Spanish, as aceite and algebra and many others that we are going to find. But at the same time that the Muslims invade the Iberian Peninsula, after just few years later, it was founded this city. Calatayud is a word that came from an Arab origin, and it was founded at the beginning of the 8th century, in 716. Okay? Just after the invasion of the peninsula, the Christian kingdoms remains in the part of the country just close to the Atlantic Ocean. There in Covadonga, the Reconquest started. The Reconquest was the process by what during these centuries, we were in the process of the Reconquest. Each time that the different lands were recovered by the Christian kingdoms, different kingdoms were formed, as you can see in the different panels that you can find in the walls. The first kingdom to appear was the kingdom of Asturias. After the kingdom of Asturias, we have other kingdoms. The kingdom of Castile, the kingdom of Aragon, the kingdom of Leon, and we will find information about them in both walls while we continue with the process. At that moment, there was another event that Aragon. St. James. You can leave a bit of space, a bit of room, please, because some students are going to come. Sorry. When the remainings of St. James were found, the way of St. James started to receive the visits of pilgrims that were traveling to visit these remains. With the way of St. James, a lot of influence from France and from other countries arrived to Spain, so it was good for our culture. And we continue. To the beginning of the 11th century. At that moment, for us it is very important that at the end of the 10th century, our language, Spanish language, is considered to be born. From this period is also the construction of the castle of Loarre, the construction of the cathedral of St. James, and also we have here some of the Muslims that conquered the peninsula 3 centuries ago, that are here in the castle of Calatayud, as it can be seen in the notice we have here. During this period, as I told you, the reconquest took place. At that moment, these Muslims that have been living in this area start to have to abandon this part of Spain. And as part of this process of reconquest, one of the capitals of the three current province of Aragon, Huesca, was recovered by Pedro I. This reconquest of Huesca also represents the moment when St. George, one of the saints that is known in other parts of Europe, became the saint patron of a region, the saint patron of Aragon. We can remember the legend of St. George. St. George was a saint that is well known. We need a bit of space, sorry. Is well known because he has killed a dragon. And the tradition says that a city in Libya was menaced by a very fierce dragon, as you can see there. This dragon was always creating problems in the city, and to maintain him calm every day, they decide one of the girls of the town to be sacrificed to the dragon. One day, it was the princess, the daughter of the king, who was selected to be sacrificed to the dragon. The princess took his destiny and decided to go through the dragon. But when the dragon was nearly eaten her, a knight dressed in white appeared and killed the dragon. And from the blood of the dragon, a rose bush grew up, and the roses of this rose bush were offered to the princess. Mimic a cloister, that can be found in so many monasteries built here in Spain during this period. The monasteries were Here we have our library that these days is transformed into a monastery, the monastery of Santa Maria del Pol. And we can enter and visit our monastery. For example, building churches. From this period, in this region, is very common a different art style that is very typical from here and can nearly not be seen in other countries, as is mudéjar art. Here you have a panel where you can see the different mudéjar churches in this region. And it was also in this period that the city of Calatayud was reconquered by Alfonso I the Fighter. Alfonso I conquered the city of Calatayud and from we need a bit of space there. Two very big cathedrals, the one in Burgos and the one in León, were constructed. What? In this period, the cathedrals were constructed. Constructing a cathedral was something really long that lasted for a lot of time, and this is the reason why all the cathedrals have different styles in different parts of these buildings. We continue. Centuries that suppose the consolidation of the Christian kingdom and the different kingdoms in general in Europe. But it's also the 14th century. It's also a very hard century because of several reasons. First of them, the War of the 100 Years, and second of them, that suppose a disaster all over Europe, is because of the Black Death. Here we have a map where you can see the process of spread of the Black Death, and also you can see how the doctor of the plague was dressed. Come here to the illness and this way to survive the process of taking care of the other. We continue. Because of the existence of the Catholic king and queen, Isabella of Castile and Ferdinand of Aragon were husband and wife. Isabella was the queen of Castile and Ferdinand was the king of Aragon. They made possible the unification in in the same line of all the territory of the Iberian Peninsula. It was under the reign of the Catholic king and queen that America was discovered. It was thanks to the money that Isabella of Castile gave to Cristobal Colón that the trip was possible, but not all the things that make the Catholic king and queen to be known are such a type of news. Not always they are well known because of things that everybody remembers as something right. They were also the responsibles in this same year that the Jews to be expelled. We can see Charles V, who was Emperor of Germany and King of Spain. He was the niece of the Catholic king and queen. From then, he received the kingdom of Spain, because this time, as both of the big kingdoms were given to the same person, he was the first one to inherit all the territory of the revolution and the moment where the first Declaration of Rights of Human Beings was signed. A bit later, here in Spain, after the French Revolution, Napoleon became emperor. And due to the tries of Napoleon to invade Spain, we had here a war, what is called the Spanish Independence War or Peninsular War. This is especially important for us, and we have arrived to know some of the moments that took place during this process, thanks to one of the most famous painters from here in Spain, that was from our region, from Aragon. It was Goya. You know, you have heard about Goya. Goya painted, among many others, one of the most famous painting was part of the Civil War, the beginning of the Civil War. Several revolutions. In this wall, we can also see some of the scientists and important people in culture here in Spain and in other places. For example, here is the year where Emilio Gimeno, the one that gave name to this high school, was born at this moment. Of the process of Europe becoming as we know today. It's also the period of the Russian Revolution. And also is the time of Antonio Gaudí, another of the most famous architects in Spain. At that moment, in 1935 is the moment where the former high school was founded. It was at the beginning. It was the Industrial Master School. 1 year after this our school to be founded, here in Spain, we have the Civil War. The Civil War that lasted from 1936 to 1939. To represent this, Civil War, we have here El Guernica, one of the pictures that Pablo Picasso painted and that represent the horrors of war. And we arrived to 1939, Second World War. Again, Spain was not directly involved in the process, but it was also affected as it was all Spain. At the end of the second, birds made in paper because they represent peace. In Japanese culture, you know that at the end of the Second World War, Japan receives two atomic bombs, and one of them affected a girl that was very famous because he tried to fold 1,000 of these birds, thinking that if he was able to make them, he could recover from the illness caused by these bombs. From this moment, these birds represent peace. And is with the thinking of peace and trying to not to be involved again in a war as it was the First World War and the Second World War, that Europe started during this period to make alliances among them. And this is the period we have represented here in steps. At the beginning, we have the Cold War, the process after the Second World War was still of problems between the two parts, the part of the USSR and these countries, and the other where there were tensions and we have different dates that are important for all of us. For example, we have placed the date of the different countries entering in the European Economic Community. Here, for example, in 1975 is the death of General Franco, the dealer that was controlling Spain since the Civil War, and the restoration and opened in 1998. This is another very important date for us because it's when this school start to take part in Erasmus projects. We have here the moment when this project was approved, and we ask you to spend some of the time you are going to pass here in centuries. And this is what we have been trying to show you in the visit to the school. But the future is still open. The future is yours, and you have to create it. It's because of that we have placed this empty space here for you, because we want you to write the future. And for you to write the future, during this week, you will have available some pieces of some pieces of paper for you to write a positive message to the future, and to place them here for us to have in our line something also created by all of you. And after that, thank you very much for your attention.